Welcome to part 3 of our series on understanding the hidden messages in customers' objections through the Clienkey sales model. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos, go back now and watch them all. Today, we will discuss the third main objection we identified by studying over 3,000 customers and the best techniques that had a very positive impact on responding to these objections. Let's dive in.
May I have your attention, please? Hope you have enjoyed the game today.
When we analyzed data from our study on customers' objections, we found that objections falling under the third main category, dissatisfaction objections, come from 2 sub-reasons. The first is that the customer doesn't see the value of the price of your product, often saying this product isn't worth the price, which we call it value for money, or the value against the price. The second reason under the same category is that the customer finds the price reasonable, but the product specifications are below their expectations, saying, I expected better specification than this. This type is called below expectations. From our study of value for money objections, we often encountered a scenario where the customer isn't aware of the market nature and competition and how these things affect the price. For example, in real estate market, there is a significant difference in developers' prices because each developer has a different approach. Some of them focus on innovative projects, targeting customers looking for something unique. Others focus heavily on their branding, selling on the name built over years, and some aims to offer very competitive prices to attract a broader customer base. The customer often doesn't realize that. I might say, by the way, there is another company offered me a better deal with a lower price. This message indirectly tells you, I don't see a difference between you and your competitors other than the price. One of the best ways to deal with this objection is a technique called categorize, where we classify the main competitors in the market based on the value of a price. So the customer realizes that the difference isn't just price, but in getting more benefits for a higher price. To apply this technique correctly, you must thoroughly understand the market, the competitors, the products, the features, the prices, everything. Otherwise, you won't be able to apply that. The second scenario for value for money objections is when the customer doesn't know your product's specifications and benefits, or what sets it apart from other products. Here, the objection isn't about comparing you to another competitor, but about the price for your product itself. For instance, in the real estate industry, when the customer says, why is this so high? Indirectly asking you and telling you a message, what am I getting for my money? We noticed a syndrome where salespeople on call recordings would say, oh, I forgot to mention that this unit has a panoramic sea view and is fully finished by brand X. This indicates that salespeople might provide information reactively, only when asked, which isn't effective. A basic technique called elaboration is necessary here, where we start from scratch with every single customer because none of them were present in your previous call or your previous discussion. We noticed a syndrome where salespeople on call recordings would say, oh, I forgot to mention that this unit has a panoramic sea view and is fully finished by brand X. This indicates that salespeople might provide information reactively, only when asked. Actually, we found out that almost 100% of the salespeople at a certain level, they stop mentioning all the features of their products, which is really scary. A basic technique called elaboration is necessary here, where we start from scratch with every single customer, because salespeople unintentionally feel like that they have said that before, so they didn't have to repeat it every time. But the truth is, you have to do it every single time, and you have to start from the very beginning with every single customer. Now, the third scenario for value for money objections is when the customer isn't aware of the effort involved in producing your product or the requirements of providing a specific service, which result in cost they didn't see. This is common, especially in services like programming, designing, where work is measured in hours. The customer might say, this seems simple, why it's so expensive? This indirectly tells you, I don't see the significant effort put into making this product or service or providing this service. One of the best ways to deal with this objection is a technique called educate, where we educate the customers about the detailed technical process and complex stages necessary to deliver the final product or service, so you can see it in this final form. You must be well versed in your product or service to explain these details accurately without overwhelming the customers. Moving on to the second sub-reason for the objections below expectations. Our data analysis revealed 3 patterns of recurring objections. The first is when the customer hasn't clearly stated what they are looking for, or the salesperson hasn't asked enough about the customer's needs. For example, in the car industry, salespeople might recommend products without the slightest knowledge of the customer's requirement. The natural approach should be to inquire more about the customer's situation before suggesting options. This leads to the customer feeling that you don't understand their needs. One of the best ways to deal with the objections is a technique called dive, where we gather as much information as possible about the customer and about their needs through a series of structured questioning technique, and we will get to that in the future. The second pattern of below expectations objections is when the customer doesn't feel the importance of the features your product offers and how these meet their needs. For instance, in the case of a mobile phone sales at a Samsung store, you might find salespeople focusing too much on technical specifications without making emotional connection with the customer. The worst salesperson in the world is the one who's only listing specifications without explaining how these will benefit the customers personally. Another type of salesperson might make comparisons with other products but fails to show how their products specifically meet the customer's needs better. The best approach here is a technique called polish, where you explain how each feature of the product benefits the customer personally, making it easier for them to decide to purchase. Now, the third pattern we observed in below expectations objections was quite significant. During our analysis of core records and visit briefs, we noticed a disconnection between the interest shown by customers during the sales pitch and their subsequent disappearance. This led us to reach out to these customers for feedback, revealing that many of those customers, the product presented to them didn't match what they were looking for. Even though it seemed like a fit during the essential engagement, this highlighted the importance of a technique called align, ensuring that at the end of every single conversation or visit, you have to summarize to the customer their needs and how your product match those needs, confirming that the options you presented to him aligns with what he's actually seeking. This can prevent misunderstandings and ensure that customers feel heard and understood before making decisions. To wrap up this part, remember that the key to dealing with customers' objections is not just to respond to them directly, but understanding the underlying concerns and address them proactively. Follow the series for more insights, revisit previous episodes if needed, and activate the notification bell for more updates. See you in the next part.